this is some really important questions that we need to be asking ourselves. Those include the former editor-in-chief of The Guardian and a human rights expert, quote unquote, who is part of George Soros's Open Society Project. The Open Society Project is actually a topic for a whole nother show, probably. But, suffice it to say, here's another quote, globally, Facebook is much more important than any newspaper or broadcaster, so it has a consequent responsibility to demonstrate it is open to a range of views. And that was a quote by Damien Green, MP, a member of the UK Parliament. So people are, that are kind of global leaders are also looking at this issue. And it's a big one, if you're going to be the world's soapbox and public square, then you must, at a fundamental level, I would think, be open to a wide range of views. And for example, if you're going to have something that is akin to the Supreme Court of social media, which Facebook is basically the largest social media platform, so they're representing, all of social media, then that board should be, should at least, if there's 20 members, 10 members on the left, 10 members on the right, or whatever, have a fair representation. It's just so, to me, blatantly, obviously skewed in one direction, which would be left-leaning, quite frankly, that there's no way that can represent anything but continuing to censor. And I just want to point out one other thing really quick. So there is some people that are, talking about this. Vice President Pence just came out basically saying that the U.S. will not tolerate big tech censorship of conservatives, which, was kind of like, on a really general level, what's going on. So I'll kind of just leave it at that, but it's really something, I don't know where it's going to go at this point, without people really kind of getting on board and saying, hey, this is not cool. And as a natural health person, it really, really makes me kind of riled up because people are not getting basic natural health information. Everyone should be taking vitamin C, whether there's a pandemic or not. And we shouldn't have to, the fact that we're having this conversation and that was, I guess, the last thing I wanted to say. It's like there's one thing that this issue is going on. There's a whole other thing that people are not aware that this issue is going on. You know what I mean? And the reason why they're not aware is because the institutions, so the media, social media institutions that are responsible, that have a duty to put that information out, are not doing their job.
So doesn't it seem obvious then that there's an agenda?
I would say yeah.
Yes?
I would say yeah.
What you got to say, Rosie?
All right, well, I have an important question for both of you guys. We're in this time of pretty serious constraints, right? Quarantine, social distancing, restaurants are closed, at least in New Mexico. And people fundamentally very much want to connect with each other. It seems like Facebook is like the only place to connect with one another where you can express yourself, right? Is there a platform right now where we can express ourselves, a social media platform? And I'm just because I know, Nikki, people will ask, is there anything that you can say briefly about these other social media platforms like Instagram and LinkedIn and Pinterest and even Zoom, right? Right now we're using Zoom to record. What the heck do we do?
Well, there's a connection between all these companies, and Mahara, you might know more about that. I know that YouTube is owned by Google. LinkedIn is connected to Amazon. No, not Amazon. LinkedIn used to be connected to eBay. Twitter, you might be able to address more of that, Mahara, about who's connected to who. Instagram is definitely connected to Facebook. I know that.
Yeah, right.
We got Instagram, Facebook. We've got YouTube, Google.
LinkedIn is now owned by Microsoft.
Oh,
LinkedIn
lovely.
is owned by Microsoft, so Microsoft is Bill Gates, right?
So is there any digital
They
public
paid
square?
$26 billion for LinkedIn. So
Wow.
they must have really wanted it.
They must have really wanted it. Well, there you've got a lot of professionals that are, you know, aware and very intelligent and wanting to kind of know what's going on. And I know that LinkedIn's blog is gaining more speed. I'm a little bit involved in LinkedIn. Pinterest is owned by, I believe it's Facebook. I
I
could be
think
wrong.
Facebook.
Yeah.
Um, so
WhatsApp?
there are alternatives.
Mhm.
I think that's what you're getting at, Rosie. Is there anywhere that's not censored?
Right. Yeah.
So there are some alternatives. There's things like BitChute, which is alternative to YouTube. The thing about those, they're great backups for people. And most of the people that are being heavily censored or think they're going to be, they're staying as long as they can on YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, because that's where everyone is. That's where the world is.
Yeah.
And that's where the word can get out. So these smaller platforms that are developing tend to be, I mean, they're all the people that have been censored from
Yeah.
the other platforms.
Yeah.
So,
It's good
but
to
those things need to get out there for people to at least be able to look on some of these alternatives.
Yeah, it's good to know there's some alternative digital public squares. And in the meantime, I agree with you. Probably everybody's using YouTube or Facebook to get their word out there for as long as they can.
Yeah, talking about channels and videos at this point that are saying anything extremely radical. There's been natural health, organic foods. Dr. Mercola is no longer on Facebook. The Truth About Cancer is no longer on Facebook. And it's because these major platforms, drmercola.com is one of the largest databases and really research heavy cited natural health, you know, blogs and databases, websites, and he had a huge Facebook following. Banned. The truth about this, and this is kind of something I've just thought about, is that they started, and I know about this industry because I work, you know, directly in it, and you know, in the media aspect of natural health industry for some of these major you know, websites and whatever. They started really cracking down on natural health way before this pandemic started, which to me kind of is a little bit of a red flag. And I always thought it was interesting. Why are they taking down or information about organic foods? You know, way back before CV happened, this was like last year, Project Veritas came out with an amazing interview with a guy named Vorhies, who is a whistleblower from Google. And he put out an amazing video that explains the concept of machine, what is it called?
Machine learning.
I can't remember, machine something learning. You'll probably see it on your screen in a minute.
Basically, you know, AI.
It's an AI, you know, program, but you have to plug in specific keywords, of which he actually downloaded all of the keywords and all of the program information for this so he could explain it to people. There was hundreds of words, and a lot of them had to do with natural health and what I would call body sovereignty. For example, if you type in Google, you know, organic health it's going to auto-populate the rest of the sentence. And before it would be like, organic health is, you know, good, is available near you, is whatever. There was a point in our recent history, maybe mid-year last year, where all of a sudden you type in organic food is, or organic food, you're going to have is bad, is a scam, is a hoax, is bad for you, is no different than commercial food. Like this was going on way before, you know, I think like last summer, this was happening. This is starting to happen on our platforms. I personally work for a company that just was completely removed from PayPal. Now, PayPal is another company that is owned by one of those guys. Mahara, maybe you know. Yeah, but I mean, so MailChimp is another one that, you know, mass emails are not getting routed. So this is kind of the behind the scenes stuff that's happening. And, you know, anyone listen to this broadcast probably is interested in natural health. So we're not talking about major quote unquote conspiracy theories, which quite frankly might have been the case with censorship, you know, 5 years ago, 2 years ago, whatever. Now we're talking about basic health information. And if it at all deviates from what the World Health Organization says, side note, Bill Gates is the #1 funder of the World Health Organization at this moment, you're going to get your stuff taken down. China is #2. China is #2 funder of the World Health Organization now that the United States has pulled out. What does that tell you?
Yep. So there's a big pharma agenda, obviously, somewhere behind this. That's what it says to me. I have an article in front of me, actually, about Google censorship. I don't know whether you guys remember when Project Veritas came out last year with some undercover footage on Google. And so what it's interesting what it's said, and Google censored of course the video releasing the information on Google, but it is still available on the Project Veritas website. So you were talking about populating, how Google does this thing of populating things. One of the things that came out was autocomplete function creates ridiculous phrases such as men can have babies, men can get pregnant, and men can have periods. Now, why is Google auto-populating like that? What is that about? We have to start asking questions, because that sounds insane to me, completely insane.
Yeah, yeah. And I think that's really important, Mahar, that we have to start asking why, even to the things that we think are really, really ridiculous, that we want to just kind of blow off. You know, as
yeah, because there's a reason that they're doing that. And that could take us into a whole other rabbit hole on the whole LGBTQ agenda. So they're basically targeting, as they said, right-wing news commentators. They're deciding they don't want these opinions to have wide appeal. They're coming in and they're putting their thumb down, and they're deciding what content the users are allowed to see. Now, I don't know about you, but I don't want someone else telling me what I'm allowed to see. I can make up my own mind, and I can think for myself. And we should all be adopting, I believe, that attitude. If you want someone else to tell you what to think, well, then you've got it right now. And it's a slippery slope.
So one of the first videos, might even still be on YouTube, maybe we can show it now. I'll plug it in. Was a behind the scenes kind of clandestine little audio recording of the head at the time of YouTube. No, I'm sorry, Facebook. Was it Facebook? Right after the
election.
The election.
That's in this article. Okay, that's Jen-jenai.
Yeah. You talk about that, Mahar.
So the undercover footage, she's Google executive, Jen-jenai, was sharing her thoughts on the 2016 election. We all got screwed over in 2016. So we've rapidly been like, what happened there? And how do we prevent it from happening again?
Right.
She continued to say that Google altered its algorithms to promote its own political idea of fairness, in quotes, adding, the same people who voted for the current president do not agree with our definition of fairness.
Yeah, again, what does that mean? That's a big question mark. The other thing is that I just really want to bring in a larger picture, whether you agree with the current administration or not. What's really at stake here is looking at the macro view, is fairness in elections, is our electoral process, is our rights, our responsibilities, and our positionality as people, free people in this country, that we thought when you go to cast your vote, that it mattered. And now that's coming into question. How much are these platforms influencing people because they're only putting one point of view out there, and actually basically putting out false information in a lot of ways. How much is that influencing? It's kind of like having a giant electoral pack named Facebook behind Hillary Clinton or behind whoever the Democratic Party is, and the other side is not being represented. And I know that, with the mail-in ballot thing right now, that's a huge issue, that, the whole front. But again, it comes to going back to the original documents, the original rights and responsibilities that we have, and that,
Are you talking about the Constitution, the Bill of Rights?
Well, yeah, of course. I mean, we're going back to these really basic things, whether before you go down the line of, well, I don't like that president anyways, take a minute and put yourself in, if the situation was reversed and there was a candidate that you really, really wanted to support, but they had no say because everybody that has the power is going towards this other thing. That wouldn't be fair. That's not a fair election,
Well, look at the whole Bernie debacle.
Do you want to talk a little bit about that? Or Rosie had a...
Well, I mean, I'm Rosie. Chip in.
I was just going to wrap up this part of the conversation just in general by saying what I observed, because I have been in media for over 22 years, and for a long time, nobody bothered about the content. Nobody cared about what you said. And now all of a sudden we are at this major crossroads. And I think Mahara said it very well in the intro. Look, folks, choose the dark or the light. That's basically what you have to, those are the two choices right here. And obviously there is an agenda, there is censorship, there is this activity going on in which there's not a balanced opportunity for people to voice their opinions. We're exposing that which, is kind of going on behind the curtains. And it's what's going on is that people are blocking the empowerment and the enrichment of people having a good life and making good choices. And to me, it's like the metaphor, I've just like these popcorn kernels in hot oil, and they're starting to fire off. And, I'm talking about the light. I'm talking about those ones that are waking up, like the popcorn kernels are there going. And how are we going to keep the lid on this? How are we going to keep the lid on this? How are we going to keep the lid on this?
Exactly.
Anyway, kind of my bottom line is there anything at this point in time that we can do about these energies that are really, really trying to block the blossoming of humanity from happening? Is there anything that Nikki, that Mahara, that we can do right now to help this?
Well, one thing we have to do is stand up for our rights, I believe, because right now with this pandemic, our rights are being trampled on. And go beyond the fear that's being manufactured, the fear and the confusion and is a huge thing. with this media thing. They play on our emotions. And we were talking earlier before the show, and there's this Alice in Wonderland technique that was developed through MK Ultra and the CIA. And it's an interrogation technique, and it is we can link. There's a video about it that we could link below. It's an interrogation technique that was used where they would fire multiple questions at someone being interrogated, and they were questions that really didn't make sense. They didn't make sense, and they'd get the person so confused that they'd start to lose it, literally go really crazy. And sometimes it would take days, but there would be a point where the person would completely break down and then be absolutely manipulatable, controllable, their free will, their sovereignty completely demolished.
Do you think
and
that's
this is what I'm seeing is happening with our media now, with what a lot of it, they're saying stuff that doesn't make sense, and they keep contradicting themselves. I mean, I'm looking at Dr. Fauci, for example. Back in March, he's saying, nobody needs to wear a mask. We don't need, they don't do any good. And then the next month he's saying, everybody's got to wear a mask. Then it's all about the masks. And then it's something else, and then it's something else. And everything they're putting out is so friggin' confusing. And the numbers, the numbers of deaths and this and that.
Got to talk about that a
totally
little bit.
Untethered to reality from what I'm seeing. So they're getting people so confused and so full of fear. I was actually talking to a friend today who said she's got a call from a friend of hers who couldn't even speak. She was so freaked out. She was having trouble forming words. She was so scared about what's happening. Yeah. So this is exactly what the media as we have it today, in my opinion, is purposefully creating. So that the powers that be behind the media, DARPA being one of them, and the deep state, DARPA is part of the deep state, so that they can push their agenda. If people are scared, they're willing to give up all their rights.
Right. Yeah. But that being said, I really feel on a real soul level that the reason why they're clamping down so hard right now and the censorship is just off the charts is because of that analogy that Rosie said about the popcorn in the hot oil. They're trying to put a lid on stuff, and people are waking up in their own ways. And more and more people are waking up, and you're seeing it kind of like in the juicy stuff that's coming up on Facebook. I mean, hey, those platforms, YouTube and Facebook, they're still there, and maybe your post will be up for half a day, and maybe 10 people will read that before it gets put down. And so, hey, that's 10 other people. I would say, if you have an inspiration to post something, post. What have you got to lose? I really want to put out. Yeah.
I just personally have to say, when you post on Facebook, you really definitely use your passion, use your inspiration to say what you need to say, and then detach.
Right.
Because you aren't attached to reading all the comments and what people say. Know who you are. Trust that what you're saying is so important. Somebody, at least one person, is going to read what you wrote, and it's really going to touch their soul.
Right.
It's really,
I just want to say one last thing about what Rosie said, and it was interesting. Rosie actually sent out a little synopsis of what we're talking about today, and I hope I can share this with the audience. She put out a little tarot reading, and one of the phrases was "cut away what no longer serves you." And so and that could be the fear, that could be our attachment to what other people think, that obsessive kind of energy of wanting to go to see like who commented on that Facebook feed. and when you strip away those kind of insecurities, you find, at the same time, you're finding a sense of inner strength that comes from your own higher power, your own connection to God, your own connection to the divine, your own connection to truth, whatever that means to you, and that really is like, if you just did that and didn't, and just took a sabbatical from the news for a whole week and just went inside and connected with your own source of truth, you're gonna look, you go back, you're gonna look at these media outlets with a whole new pair of eyes. I mean, this is what we're putting on our collective new vision right now. We're beginning to see the world, as painted by these mainstream media outlets, in a whole different light. And we're also seeing our own strength, and it's happening.
What would you suggest, Mahara, for empowering, oneself and enriching your life? What would you suggest in the face of the topic today of social media?
Well, first of all, we have to understand the problem and look at what we're reading or seeing. Is it making me feel fearful? Is it making me feel angry? Is it inciting violence? Any of those things, you want to unplug from that. Anything that is not factual. So this is the distinction. A lot of the media now that most people are looking at is playing on your emotions. It is really working at the base level of hooking you emotionally through fear or anger or grief, any one of the negative emotions. So first of all, you have to see that. And you have to start getting your observer on deck and start to see, how do I feel after reading that? And how do I know it's true? Well, not really. They're saying, an anonymous person said this or someone said that. And there aren't any real facts. So that's one. You got to start with kind of separating from the truth from not truth. And once you do that, then like you said, just separating yourself completely from it for a while, connecting with nature is really, really important, I believe. One of the most important things, and again, it's one of the things that if you look back over the last 20, 30 years and this rise in social media and the whole AI, the sort of push for AI and for children doing everything on their computers, the natural world has been abandoned for the most part. And I know for me, I feel very blessed. I live outside of a town. I live in a rural setting. And just being able to be out in nature, to hang with a tree, to just sit by a tree or sit by water and just remember what it is to be a human being on this earth and feeling it, feel the earth, feel what nature has to say. That is one of the most powerful things, I believe. And again, with this pandemic, they're trying to keep people away from nature too. Not essential.
Yeah.
I believe nature is essential. How come liquor stores are essential, but nature isn't?
Yeah.
And there are people who are encouraging, people to go out in the sun, get some vitamin D.
Yeah, and they're being censored.
And they're being censored. Exactly.
So again, we go back to, we all have an innate knowing. We all innately have common sense, I believe. Now, for some of us, it may be buried really deep and we got to do some fishing to find it. But I think we need a restoration of common sense.
But Mahara, I just want to throw this at you and Rosie. When we are in the fear response, we're in the stress response, and we're under the control of hormones such as cortisol and adrenaline, and our limbic system in our brain is functioning, not our frontal lobe. And we, would you say, have less of an ability to use our common sense and our logic about things, right?
That's, well, one of the things that's great for that are essential oils. So working with essential oils, they go straight to the limbic brain. So just using, I know for me, sometimes a smell will take me back to a memory from childhood. One, the smell is so powerful in that way. And because it works straight through our limbic brain. So I'd recommend high quality essential oils. If you're prone to going into the fear response or going into anger or grief,
Anxiety,
which is the fear response, it's just a level of it. So work with essential oils to assist you.
You guys are coming up with wonderful, what I would call our CAT's call to action. You know, vitamin D, get out in the sun, breathe fresh air, smell essential oils, all of that sort of thing is very important. And I'm just going to add the animal kingdom. Even though we've kind of abandoned them, if you look, they're really coming forward. Like my cat the other night, usually he's nocturnal, he goes out, and he knew that I needed him close by. He stayed with me all night. Also another example is at the end of our last cat chats, a hawk came and landed in the tree outside my window, and he just bathed in the sun and preened himself or herself, and just connecting with that hawk was very special for me. So I want to encourage people, connect with animals. Yes, connect with nature. Do these things. And I wrote down on one of the call to actions, since we're in this digital age, take a picture of something beautiful in nature and send it to 5 people. You know, when you see a picture, when you see a hawk come to you, take a picture of it, send it to 5 people, or a butterfly, or, you know, a rose is blossoming, whatever. We're in this incredible time of the year, actually, the spring and the summer, to be able to connect with nature. So we could talk about so much more, right?
If you can't get out, if you feel like it's not safe to get out, listen to a piece of music that's very soothing for you. Read a passage in an inspirational book, whatever that might be. Even if you have to go to the screen and watch a movie that makes you laugh, that's uplifting. There's all kinds of ways to lower that stress response.
Does expressing yourself lower that stress response? Can it?
Yeah, I mean, if it's expressing yourself in a way that releases energy on an energetic level, we've got this kind of chaotic energy going on. So if you need to jump up and down and scream and yell for 30 seconds and then stop and then breathe and then shake it out and then go into a space where you're observing and reflecting on what's happening in your body. Do it again a couple of times just to shake off that energetic fear. What you're doing is you're releasing the energy, you're lowering your brain state into basically high beta, mid beta, low beta, high alpha, mid alpha. What you want to do is stay in that mid alpha level, right? You want to stay in, or that high alpha. That's your creative, your discernment. When you're in high beta, you're operating on and there's going to be a part of you that wants that cortisol because it's kind of like a drug. You have more cellular receptor sites to cortisol at that point if you've been under the hormones of stress for so long, technically.
Well, Mahara's going to share her playlist with me, and I'm going to buy a rebounder.
Yeah, I mean, it's different.
Dance and music are wonderful.
Yeah, that could be anything.
Well,
whatever.
we're being told not to connect right
Well,
now.
the human connection is so important. That's why they're keeping us away from each other right now. And again, I think it's back to what you said, Rosie, about the popcorn analogy. There are too many of us waking up.
Too
And
many.
the people that want to implement their new world order are panicking because there are too many of us waking up.
Too
So
many.
that's why the censorship has gone off the charts right now.